Would you trust a bloke to be responsible for and take contraception? 0207 862 2222. It's been more than 50 years since the contraceptive pill for women was approved for use in the UK, but the success of the pill meant there hasn't been all that much enthusiasm to come up with a similar drug for men. But scientists now think they might not be far off a contraceptive for men, meaning they no longer have to rely on condoms or having vasectomies. The latest drug on trial is an injection which lasts 2 years. It blocks the release of sperm. In other words, it goes right into the urethra, those important little places. So, would you want a man that you were being intimate with to take it? Would you trust a gentleman who told you he had had the injection? Do get in touch. Obviously, we're going to start with you, William Sitwell. Matt Allwright said it depends where the injection goes, and the answer is right into your, your delightful lunchbox, really. So what do you think?
Well, I've got 4 children. None of them were mistakes. They're all glorious triumphs. So they were happily planned. But I have to say, I think the onus needs to be on the woman, because she's the one who's going to have to bear the child. And I think if she relies on a man who, and men have a history of being unreliable, and I think if you've placed your trust in a guy who, because he said that, I think you're foolish. I mean, I think, if you're a mature couple and you have a great relationship, then, and you think as the woman that it's the man's turn to take on the responsibility, that's fine. But I think when it comes to dates, one night stands, I think you're completely insane as a woman to rely on a man to believe him that he, and also what point in the journey of the date does he reveal that he's had an injection down there?
Before you do the deed, you get down to the
not before the date.
Conversation. I don't think you check in advance.
You never know these days.
Injection.
Well, there's always a moment, isn't there, where you have to establish what you're doing for contraception.
Sure.
Like that conversation comes up. It's like, do you have a condom? It's now going to be, have you your lunchbox?
But I think you need to take a lie detector test, which makes the whole date and the whole
it's not romantic
issue not very
romantic. It's not romantic. And let's just say, for the sake of safe sex, you're probably going to have to use the condom anyway. Certainly, if you're having sort of sex with some ephemeral person that isn't really someone you know or trust. But Caprice, you're married. You're in a long-term relationship. Do you think it's about time that your other half took contraception?
Oh, honey, after I had kids, he got snipped, and literally the next day, he said, okay, the honeymoon's over, no more kids. I'm like, okay. So, but weirdly enough, Vanessa, over the years, and I've had so many best guy friends, they have been plagued with women saying, oh, no, I'm on the pill. And then they say they're pregnant, and they try and kind of keep if the relationship's on the rocks, and they say, well, no, I'm pregnant. So now men actually have their power back,
Yes.
And would I trust a man? I mean, why would he lie, really?
Well, why would a woman lie? I mean, I suppose if you're having sex with someone you don't know and don't trust, you can't bank on it.
Maybe she wants financial stability. Maybe the relationship, like I said, is on the rocks, and this will keep the relationship alive. I don't know. And I'm such a girl's girl. But a lot of my guy friends said, I've been trapped, and this would be great for them. Now, the fact that it's in the willy, I don't know.
Yes.
I mean that's pretty hairy-carry.
In the real world, I suppose it's worth saying that some gentlemen might lie because they don't want to wear a condom. They don't like it. They'd rather not. And they'd rather just go for it and hang the consequences. Isn't that the situation?
But they don't want these consequences if they don't want a child. Why would they put themselves in this precarious position to begin with? It makes no sense.
What do you think, William?
I think if you want to have a child, you should get married. Let's leave it at that.
I'm certainly not going to contradict that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that assertion.
Lovely.
Lots of people, of course, watching will think, well, we're in a long-term loving relationship. We're not actually married. Why does he say that? Is he a closet vicar or priest? Is he really a rabbi? Is he an imam? What's going on? Why does he want people to get married? Why do you?
I'm quite a formal, kind of old school sort of conservative with a small c, sometimes a conservative with a large c. And I just think that if you can create families according to tradition, I think there's nothing, I think that the whole marriage ceremony, it doesn't have to be, it can be a pagan one. That promise you make in front of a congregation is one of the, and your congregation then holds you to that marriage. And I think there's something about, making that vow. I mean, I have to say, I did get divorced, so not everything works out. But I think that for me, tradition, formality can help in these circumstances.
I didn't know we were going to get from a discussion on a contraceptive injection into the
marriage.
Important little places to marriage and a lovely diatribe on how important it is to have a firm foundation when you have children. But I can't disagree because I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I did. I do think certainly a very firm, loving, trusting relationship is the right environment if you're going to have children. But of course, the world isn't always ideal, is it?
Well, I think you're being a little bit optimistic there because you're basically saying you trust men to go down the aisle, to be husbands and to take on that responsibility. But you earlier said you don't trust them to get this injection in the lunchbox.
We're a very confused species.
And that's why I don't trust you.
Let's go to the phones.
Every woman
Let's go to the
watching
phones.
will
That's why I don't
Because
trust any of you.
What we asked was, would you trust a man to take responsibility for contraception? And let's go to Maria in Portsmouth, see what she thinks. Maria, hello, thanks so much for ringing.
It's a simple no. It's a woman's body. It's her responsibility to make sure she doesn't get herself pregnant. It's up to the man, it's up to the woman.
And the idea that you could delegate, you could have a conversation where you say, I've tried the pill, it doesn't really agree with me all that well. In fact, it makes me very moody or it makes me put on weight, not so sure about the cap, not certain it'll work. And, would you like to have a bash at taking control of the contraception? And the fellow says, yes, I will. I'll have that injection. That's going to be great for 2 years. You wouldn't want to do that.
So say that relationship breaks up, you end up in another one, which I have, and then you're going to ask them as well.
Well, you could.
It's a woman's body. We take responsibility for ourselves. We fought to have the right to make that choice ourselves.
On the other hand, you could say it takes two to tango, two people to get someone pregnant. So why isn't the man 50% responsible if he doesn't want children for making sure he doesn't cause children?
Well, we need to put a condom on.
So, on the other hand, that's not always available. It's not always desirable.
I have to say, I think Caprice completely hits the nail on the head in that
Thank
it's
you.
about... No, but it's about the man protecting himself, making sure that, and I think that's more important. I think moving the onus, it's not about the woman. I think if a man needs to, if he wants kids or he doesn't want kids, he can make that decision himself. So I think it's about empowering the man in this decision.
Yeah. They haven't been empowered. Women have been... We had the contraceptive pill from 1961. So that's over 60 years. It's their turn.
It's their turn, you feel?
Absolutely.
But what about the trust
Your
issue?
turn.
Because Maria thinks that, obviously the person that would end up with the consequences, the baby, is the woman. Could you trust a man, even if he should be taking charge, to do it?
I guess you can't get away from the biological fact of it that you would be the one carrying the baby if something went wrong. But I'd still like to think if you're in a relationship with that person, you should be able to trust them that they're getting that injection. You can ask them to do it.
It is amazing, isn't it, how complex contraception still is after all these years. Because if the pill doesn't agree with you, it's very hard to find something else that really works. There are injections. It's still not perfect after all this time.
They all have downsides. The UID... coil, people have to get it surgically removed sometimes.
And the shot, I had the shot.
Oh, really?
That was a disaster.
Oh, really?
Really, did you have a bad reaction?
Well, it just messes up your insides, really, when you come off it.
Right.
It's just a huge dosage of these toxic chemicals going into your body, and you don't menstruate for God knows how long.
Was it a hard sell to get your husband to have, as you put it, the snip, a vasectomy?
He didn't even... after I gave birth, he just went and did it.
And did you
have a brother? And is he just as
you
nice?
didn't.
Oh, brilliant.
You didn't have to talk him into it, Caprice. You didn't have to talk him either into it or out of it.
You know what? We have 5 kids. He has 3 stepkids, and now we have 2 kids together, 5 kids. I'm not going to make a huge... I was okay. I was okay with it.
And William, you say you have 4, all of them planned, all of them delightful.
Yeah, delightful.
It didn't occur to you not to make any more, so to go and have a vasectomy?
Oh, God, we're going to talk about this on telly?
Yes.
There is a... I did consider it.
Did you?
But I'm such a wimp that there is a very small chance of chronic pain in some circumstances, and I wasn't going to take the risk. And I was told that it was something like 1 in 250. Even if it was 1 in 25 million, I know that I'd be the one who didn't luck out. So I wasn't so...
It is quite sophisticated, though. When my husband did, and this was 13 years
Really?
ago.
I thought they'd just take it's doing, isn't it? It's more sophisticated
No, you're
than that.
completely coherent, and
Right.
they go in, and the only thing that's a bit weird is they shave down there.
Okay.
And then it takes 10 minutes, and that's it, done.
Yeah.
And it's reversible. So it's very sophisticated.
I'd just say, if you're eating your lunch right now, we do apologise for that slight moment of discomfort while we discussed that bit. That was quite uncomfortable. Even for women, thinking of the vasectomy isn't altogether comfortable.